All right, guys, I'm cutting this one short because I'm excited. We got Kyle with Holladay Distilling. Ben Holladay or Holladay? Is it? They're the same, right?
Holladay Distillery. Yeah,
Okay.
same basic thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
With Holladay Distilling, and we're going to talk about everything that they're doing. They're blowing up right now. They're big dogs. Let's get into it. All right, thanks for coming back. All right, so we've been able to get Kyle from Holladay Distilling on, and we're going to talk about some stuff. We're going to keep it loose. We're going to try not to go too over because I know you guys are super busy right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's been a little bit chaotic around here. We're got all the bourbon out in the world, and now just trying to keep telling our story and make sure people get a chance to try all of our different offerings. So yeah, it's been a bit hectic around here for sure.
Awesome. And I heard through the whiskey ethers that your whiskey made whiskey of the year. Is that correct?
So we had a candidate for in the Ascot Awards.
Okay.
It was one of the candidates for best small batch bourbon, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what it was. So our Ben Holladay Rickhouse Proof from August of last year. We didn't end up pulling it off. Right there. Yep. So we ended up second, but beat out a few pretty heavy hitters in that as well. So pretty good showing. Pretty impressed with it overall. Pretty happy with it.
Absolutely. And what's funny is you said August of last year, and this is that bottle. So that's really kind of cool.
Yeah.
So while you can take. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question about the bottle, just right off the top. It has a screw top. Screw top, and there's a lot of whiskey people out there that kind of poo-poo the screw tops. Why did you choose a screw top instead of a cork?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple different answers to that. One, when everything we did with bringing back our product was kind of influenced by the past. So first and foremost, we had that design, kind of that quarter screw cap, in our history. When we made bourbon back 50 plus years ago, that was one of the kind of styles that we had. And so that was one of the drivers, but then ultimately, nearly as much of an issue with, cork breakage or air entering into the bottle. And so ultimately it's also for the bourbon itself as well. Gotcha. I don't know how many times, we were bourbon consumers before we were making it, how many times I had a cork break in my bottle, and that just drove me nuts. So, I'm very glad that we have that quarter screw cap. You got to get used to it. It doesn't have the pop that people kind of like, but beyond that, I think works overall.
So you had said when you were talking about that you were reviving an old brand. Is that correct? So kind of go into that a little bit and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we have slightly different, path to market, I guess, than most newer bourbon brands. So, we are the oldest distillery west of Mississippi, founded in 1856, and so Ben Holladay and his brother David founded our facility, hence our name. And they made bourbon on site here from 1856 up until 1985 with that short prohibition break. And so, we have that history and that legacy of making bourbon, producing bourbon, bottling bourbon. And so that was, that history runs through. And, fast forward 2015, we had a 30-year hiatus, but we wanted to bring back bourbon production. And so that, was all driven by the past. And so it was, our president remembered seeing those bottles as he was growing up, and we had some that we could try, and we knew that it was phenomenal bourbon. And so we wanted to bring that back in the way that kind of respected what we used to do. And so that was really when we first started, kind of back full-fledged again in 2016. That's what we did, and it was with that original mash bill, that 73% corn, 15 rye, 12% malted barley. So that Ben Holladay, anytime you see that Stagecoach on the bottle, that's that original mash bill, our one that dates back to 1856. And so that was kind of the bringing back the history. And every part of it was, what can we revive? What can we use? We uncovered the cistern, our well, where, all the limestone springs are directed on site. And so
Oh, wow.
brought that back and cleaned out our still house that had, dating back to 1839. So this historic structure, we couldn't use any of the equipment. It sat there for 30 plus years and wasn't functional. But we still could have that building, brought that back. And ultimately then our rick houses as well. So they were kind of storing equipment and, junk in general, cleaned them up, made sure they were structurally sound, made sure the roof was all set, and put barrels back into it. So the whole process was truly about bringing back the past. And then that spilled over into the bottle and label and package design as well. It was, nothing directly in our past where it said Ben Holladay bourbon or Holladay Distillery, soft wheat bourbon, any of that. But it was in a similar style and a similar overall feel. And that standard liquor bottle that just feels good in your hand. That type of package with that kind of old retro type label and then that quarter screw cap. And so it was all really influenced by what we were doing overall throughout our history.
That's awesome. And I mean, you guys are so transparent on your bottling. Like you have your DSP, your warehouse, what floor it came from, your alcohol, all the things. Obviously this, it tells you when it was distilled, when it was bottled. Like you guys are doing everything you can to say, hey, and obviously if you go on the website, which I'll have linked down below, if you go on the website, I mean, you're going to find even more information like the mash bill and stuff like that. That to me is so cool that you guys are doing that and reviving an old brand, turning it into something new and exciting, but yet keeping hold of that heritage. That's some of the things that we love over here on this channel, is talking about the heritage and the backstory of the whiskey. And, that I feel like you guys are trying to do that.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that you notice that. It is very intentional. It's one of those things where, we have the history to lean on and in our bourbon style and we want to make and how we want to make that. But we are at that kind of unique position and kind of a luxury for us, I guess, that we could rethink how we wanted to produce this and label it and bottle it in today's day and age. And so, it was truly about that full transparency. How can we tell every detail about this? We were proud that we made this from the beginning. We were wanting to say that, right? And so that's where the bottled and bond piece came in. Absolutely. If you comply with bottled and bond, it has to be that we made it. And so kind of that layer, but then it just kind of continued to evolve as we were going through. Hey, what can we add to this that you don't normally see on a bottle, but we'd like to see? Again, I mentioned we were whiskey consumers. We wanted to see all the information that oftentimes you don't get to see. And so that was really the driver. And it's fun to be able to do that in today's day and age, because it's complete rehaul and rethinking what we're doing with the bottling. And so it was full transparency, not hiding any detail. You asked before we got on if we need to avoid any topics or anything. We're full transparency all the time. We're not going to hide from that. And so, that's who we are. And we just want to make sure that we're telling our story, and that's, not hiding any details behind it.
Because as you probably well know, it takes a little bit of Google foo, and we can find some stuff out pretty fast. So,
exactly.
You can't hide from us. But at the same time, if there's things like, I have no problem with sourcing, I have no problem with all that stuff, just the transparency of it. Because there's some people that are sourcing and doing finishing options and stuff like that are making amazing stuff. So I'm not going to poo-poo any of that. But like you're just making sure that your story is 100% yours, however you want to say it. And that to me is really cool. So I do have one question. What kind of sets you guys apart, other than your backstory being dated, sets you guys apart from other bourbon distilleries? Because, obviously you're being in Missouri and not in Kentucky. That's one of them. But what's another one that you guys think just kind of sets you apart?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, when you really look at bourbon, it is all about that taste of place, right? And so everybody has that, no matter what, and you always inherently have that. And so with us being in Missouri, a little bit hotter, a little bit colder than Kentucky, and that helps overall. We have that same limestone spring water. Again, that's beneficial for us.
Yes.
But really, when it comes down to it, I think the combination of all of those things together with the fact that we have traditional rick houses that are 7 stories outside of Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana. I mean, those are kind of the main drivers. And so
Right.
we're making a very traditional style bourbon, doing it every step of the way is very traditional in nature, but it's done here with our climate. And then throw in the fact that Missouri bourbon legislation and what it is inherently is slightly different. So it's something where, to be labeled as a Missouri bourbon, we have to be made here. That's obvious. We're using corn that's all within 15 miles of our distillery. So it has to use Missouri corn. And then it has to be aged in barrels that were made in the state from Missouri oak. And so really,
wow.
Missouri is a great place to make bourbon, and you don't often think about that. And it's one of the things that has a good history to it with being a Missouri product as well. And so I think ultimately all those things together is kind of what makes us slightly different than everywhere else. But yeah.
Awesome. And I'm telling for the listeners at home, which I'm sorry about your bad luck, but I am smelling on this Ben Holladay Rickhouse Proof, and it has such an awesome nose on it. And I feel like I've had some other products that have had Missouri oak as well, and I feel like, and I mean, it might just be in my head, but I feel like I could smell the difference. Like it just smells super clean. Like obviously your ferments are super clean and stuff like that, but like I mean, and at 120 proof, it doesn't hit like 120 proof.
No. Yeah, we have noticed that in general as we've kind of rolled out these barrel picks on site. Anytime we always leave those at the full proof where they're at, and anytime we've done that, we tend to, people are like, oh, what proof is that? They throw something out and they think it's lower than it is, because that's what we tend to see with our products is that, yeah, they come off and taste a little bit more lower proof, even if they are that 120. It's not just extra alcohol. There's extra flavor that comes with that as well. And so definitely drinks.
Absolutely. So what is the highest proof that you've pulled off a barrel?
Yeah, so we've seen, oh man. So as we filled the rick house, if you kind of think about it, we didn't immediately just go up to the 7th floor and start filling that and risk falling down. So we went methodically through. So we have only had a 6th floor barrel. We had a few that we put up there, and those, I think we've gotten about 128 proof.
Okay.
We entered the barrel at 118. So that is one of those things we brought back from our recent history, was that 118 barrel entry proof. And so, yeah, seeing it increase about 10 to 11 proof on that 6th floor is kind of where we've been at. But yeah, we'll see as we continue to go. That's one rick house, and we have the second rick house that's still yet to open up, and so still learning a lot on the aging side of it. And again, we don't have anything from the 7th floor, so we'll see where kind of that highest level. I don't think you're ever going to see like a hazmat, above any crazy number from us, but definitely we'll see some barrels here or there going, toward approaching that 130 mark.
Okay, cool. And why did you pick 6 years instead of 4 years? I know with your bottled and bond product, it has to be minimum 4 years. Why did you pick 6? Was that the sweet spot, or was it like we just wanted to have a little extra age on it?
Yeah, so that was one of those things that ultimately, so I started 2016, and we were laying it down, and when we first started, we did not necessarily envision exactly what we were doing now. Right? It's very expensive to do this. And and it's not my money, so I'm not the one who's ultimately paying for that. So it's one of those things that it's like, okay, I can advise. I think we should wait this long, but we will see as we go. And so that was one of those things that each year I'd pull a sample from a barrel and present it kind of to the board or the shareholders and let them taste it and try it and see what they thought. And ultimately I give my, hey, I think it would be better to wait. I think it'd be better to wait. But it's, again, not me who's having to worry about those financial decisions. And so we got to that 4-year mark, and it was one of those things that, well, yeah, we could release now for bottled and bond. And we talked about it, and we had, I think, even had mocked up some labels and kind of concepts and whatnot. But then our president, Mick Harris, was talking with another guy who was around when we made it back in the day. And they kind of were like, our sweet spot historically was always 6 to 10 years. Why would we go at this point? We're so close to 6. Why would we do it now? Let's just go ahead and wait. And make that decision now that we're going to go to 6 years, because that's what we knew tasted the best at our facility, that 6 to 10 year mark. And so, thankfully for me, I'm very glad they waited. That was always my hope, was that we could wait to kind of that 6 year. Personally, that's, again, the kind of bourbon that I like to drink, is that 6 to 10 year old product. I don't like over oaked, and in general, we don't on site either really like over oaked. But yeah, it was one of those things that kind of worked out, but it was never envisioned from the beginning, hey, we're going to lay this down and wait 6 years. Again, that's kind of one of those unique things, right? Because we didn't have to source, and we were able to wait 6 years. And people often ask, how is that possible? Well, we, that 30 years, we built out a portfolio of other brands. And so we have other brands that we sell, from vodka, tequila to By Farms Irish Cream is a phenomenal product of ours. And so we built those out during that time, and that allowed us to sit on that. And it's a unique luxury that most don't have. And I completely understand that. And it's a different position to be in, but very glad and thankful that the group was able to hold off until that mark.
Absolutely, because I mean, like you said, it's one thing when you're playing with your own money, but when you're playing with somebody else's money, it puts an extra sense of like urgency. But not only that, like, I need to turn this over, but like if it was my preference, I'd let it sit. And so like for the owners or the people backing everything, it's really good for them to be like, they take what you say in stride and be like, hey, we appreciate what you're saying. We're going to let it ride. Because sitting on not releasing whiskey for another 2 years, you're losing out on some money. Just saying.
Yeah.
So,
there's no doubt about that. Yeah.
So it makes it kind of difficult to to say, yeah, let's release it at 6 when you can release it at 4. Yeah, it might be a subpar product, but at least you're making money. So that's pretty cool. And the color on this thing is beautiful. I mean, it is dark stuff. And they're 53-gallon barrels, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Char 3 53-gallon barrels made at Independent Stave Company down in Lebanon, Missouri.
Love them.
Yep. So it's a phenomenal barrel to get in here. We've had that relationship again, and kind of going back, it's one of those luxuries. When we first started up, I don't know if it was our president or VP of Ops called Independent Stave and said, hey, we're starting up our distillery. We're going to need, X number of barrels a year. And they were like, no, we can't do that. Like, we're short on barrels. Right. And, but then it kind of went to their owner and it's like, that we sold barrels to them. That was, some of our first customers. We remember historically selling and they remembered that it was a Char 3 barrel and that it was, and so it was, from the beginning, it was kind of like, okay, that's really cool that you have all of that info and you remember all of that. Definitely helps us right now because we need barrels. So
right. So I'll ask you this: you had said twice now that you guys were bourbon enthusiasts before you decided to dump some bourbon. what are some of your personal favorite whiskeys? Obviously, the ones you're making, but like some of the other distilleries you like, a lot of their stuff.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I so I was kind of the bourbon consumer that I think a lot of people, I would venture to guess that you know a lot of people, or a lot of people listen to you that are similar. I was the bourbon consumer that would be like, if I come home, it's more of hey, what am I feeling like tonight, or
Yes.
what exactly, like you kind of know a little bit of the profile, and so you kind of want to change it up, you want to mix it
Right.
up, you go back to a different bottle. It's more of the exploration of it, and I think that was more of what I was. Ultimately, I this is the one I've ever said publicly, is I've always been a fan of the Russell family and what they've done at Wild Turkey, and so
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I respect everything that they've done for that brand and how they've done it, and I also particularly enjoy the bourbon. So that's one that across the board I have always enjoyed. But from there, it's in general, again, it's more of that traditional style of bourbon. Your kind of Kentucky, Indiana type of bourbon overall, I enjoyed, but it was never any specific.
Okay.
Now, that's kind of a good transition because our president, Mick Harris, I've mentioned him a couple times, he enjoyed weeded bourbon. That was his go-to, and he's like, "Man, if we're gonna be going and bringing this back, I need to have a product of ours that I want to drink." And so that's where soft red wheat came into play. So
Okay.
Holiday soft red wheat was truly because he enjoys weeded bourbon. That's not part of our history at all. And so that was his kind of personal preference and shaping what we wanted to do. But it was still, when we did that, it was intentional with let's let's use the same methods that we've done
Right.
historically. Let's use the same mash bill. Let's use the same, distillation proofs, 120, 130 off the column and doubler. Let's go ahead and continue on with that tradition and style of making bourbon, but let's just sub in that soft red wheat in the mash bill instead. And so it was truly just kind of like the study of one grain. If you change one out and put soft red wheat instead of that rye, what does that do to the taste profile? And so that was driven by his preference, and then kind of that study in the grain as well. But again, continuing on with our history and the style that we make bourbon.
Absolutely. And what have you seen in the profile of the soft red wheat comparatively? Are you're just swapping out the rye for wheat? Is that what it is? You're not doing the
Yep.
higher wheat content. Okay, so I
Correct.
mean,
Yep.
are you seeing? I mean, I've been able to try a sample of it. I haven't picked up a bottle of it yet, but what are you seeing that makes it? Obviously, it doesn't have that rye spice, but what is
Yep.
some of the components of that? If you
Yeah, I
could say.
mean, ultimately, I always encourage people to try it as well, but it provides that kind of more typical weeded characteristic. It's one that that it kind of stands down, lets that barrel come through. It's just softer in general overall, without that spice characteristic, and so very very traditional with that profile. And so it's one of those things that we on site, like that's we tend to gravitate towards that during the summer, and
Right.
maybe throw it on a rock, or
Right.
chilled. And so it does fall in line with that, where it just is a kind of much more subtle taste profile overall that you would expect with that wheated bourbon.
Okay. Okay, awesome. I mean, because obviously there's a bunch of weeded bourbons out there, and everybody's doing it. And for me, and it's fine. Like I don't have a preference really. I'll take whatever you want. There's some that are a little bit. They get a little. I feel like sometimes the wheat comes across a little hotter to me on some brands, not
Yeah.
necessarily y'all's, but it comes across a little hotter, not like rice spice, but like I guess more of the barrel influence is there. So yeah, no, it's kind of strange. Okay,
Yeah.
so one more question. This is kind of a wild one, but I like to throw a couple curveballs in there. I know you guys are mainly doing bourbon, but
Yep.
what is the most unusual ingredient you've used, or considered using in making a whiskey?
Yeah, so we have not made, outside of traditional grains, the corn, wheat, rye, and malted barley. We have not used anything else. So that's the giant caveat. Everyone's always trying to get me to admit to something. Oh, you got to have something up there.
Yeah.
You got to have
Yeah.
done tried or whatever. I haven't yet.
Okay.
When we look at it again, our history was bourbon, and so that's what we started with. To me, I would love to do other types of whiskeys and styles of whiskeys as well, and that's on the potential list. Anything we've played with so far, though, that's been a different type of barrel, and so we did lay down other barrels. Early on, we did an experimentation or a trial with independent stave, and we got various toast profiles for first fill aging and a wave stave spiral cut type of product, and so we laid some of those down 7 years ago. Haven't released any yet, and so we've done that. We've played around in that realm. We've played around with barrel entries and stuff like that. So everything we've done is very traditional. The one thing I'll say is I have looked into one other thing, and it's I don't intend to necessarily use it, but my dad always he's a farmer in Western Kansas, and so he didn't. Corn grew okay out there, but really what he did was grain sorghum, Milo, and so he was always like, man, can you just try? Can you just do something with grain sorghum? And so I'd looked into that for a while, but it's one of those things that who knows? But that's probably the most extreme I've looked at. I would like to really get down to the grains and look into more so of what would we have used back in the day, or can we grow a different type of heirloom type of corn or wheat around here, what could work. That's something that we will look into and intend to do, but nothing too extreme so far.
So there's no rye whiskey in your future?
If there is, it will be at least 6 years and change down the line. Gotcha. We don't have anything in a barrel yet.
Gotcha.
There's who knows? Maybe I've always said I should just go rogue and start laying some stuff down, just because why not? At this point, I hope I've built a little bit of goodwill towards my job, that I can afford to have an experiment here or there. So who knows? Maybe we'll get that different type of crazy grain after all.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the thing. But also, what you guys are trying to do is you're trying to have the history and tradition through your whiskey. And so, varying off of that path, it kind of takes you down. It would almost have to be a different branding almost, because you want to stay true to what you're putting in that bottle. And if you can't do that, coming out with a single malt, y'all didn't do single malt back in the day. So that's just kind of the thing. So it's I don't know. It makes it kind of difficult. I mean, you don't pigeonhole yourself, but at the same time, you have to stay true to what you are. And if you guys are the Missouri Bourbon Company, then that's what you guys are, So, and I will tell all the listeners and viewers that if you have not picked up not only this one but the wheat, go get you a bottle of it. I don't have to tell you guys. You guys have been egging me on about this one for a while. So, okay, one more question. I got a lot more questions, but we're going to get into the next one. Not that one. That one's for later. Let's get out of these. These are crazy. Let's get out of those. I write down a bunch of questions because,
Yep.
Okay, this is a good one. What are some of the biggest challenges that you guys have faced in your distilling process?
Yeah, that's good. You know, ultimately, uh, and anytime. So for me, the biggest challenge, no matter what, is this industry is it's just so difficult to think about, right? Like if you've never tried something before, if you've never done something before, and then you have to wait 6 years to see what happens. It's just mentally, it's a challenge, and so it's like one of those things where, we were laying down bourbon, and we knew we had that history, and that was a huge advantage. We knew what the bourbon tasted like in the past, and we
Right.
knew the general guidelines. There was TTB records and
Yeah.
documentation, and so we could follow it, and it's for the most part okay. And we had Dennis Cohurst was on site. He was one of the last still operators back in the 80s before they shut it down. He picked up welding, and he helped weld up our facility. But he was around, and he could kind of give us the, hey, yeah, we used to do this, or I remember that, or that smells familiar. But ultimately it's new to us and new overall, and so you still have to have that. You don't know, and then you get to the point where it's sat there for 18 months, and okay, is this taste what we should be getting at 18 months? I think so. It tastes good for 18 months, but it's still unknown. Where is it going to go, and how does each floor age? We early on really enjoyed the fifth floor of Rickhouse C, and then as we've gone along, other floors have really, as they've come of age, it's like, man, that one's phenomenal. Like, and so we're learning kind of the sweet spots, and you just every little detail you have to learn on your own, and there's so much uncertainty and unknown with that, and it's honestly it's terrifying. It's one of those things that I always said, hey, I have a job for 6 years. Beyond
Yeah.
that, I don't know. That first release. It's, are people going to show up? What are
Yeah.
people going to say? And in today's day and age, especially with social media, I got off of Facebook before we release, because it's like I don't want to know what people say. Like it's I hope it's all good, but ultimately, people are just who they are on social media, and it's going to be
Absolutely.
good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, and I didn't want to know any of that. And so it's
Nope.
it's all of that rolled into just the uncertainty overall. And so it was definitely, for me, I think that's the biggest challenge. We have a phenomenal team who's able to help. Like I said, we got the system installed with a great group of people on site, and we got it started up and fired up, and we learned how to run it, and we had people with I had worked at a distillery before here. Our quality manager had worked there as well, and so we kind of had a background in distilling and a little bit of a knowledge. But so we had a good team here with that history, but you still have so much uncertainty behind all of that. So I'd say, to me, that's the biggest challenge overall,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
continues to be as we have another Rick House. Who knows? At each release, we have to I stress over it, because we want to make sure we're putting our best bourbon in the bottle and representing ourselves well. And so it's, yeah, every time we do something new, it's always stressful.
Well, I can tell you not only from personal experience, but the buzz I'm hearing out in the world. And I know you can't help but hear it as well, but it's overwhelmingly awesome. You do get the one or two naysayers because they're like,
Yep,
"Oh, it's not from Kentucky. I don't like it."
exactly. Yep.
You always get those, but then the overwhelming thing is, "Hey, this is some new stuff. Y'all need to get into this." So that to me says a lot for you guys, but it also says a lot, I hate to say, for us, for the whiskey community, because we are branching out. Like, I'm a
Yep.
lover of scotch and all sorts of other stuff. So like, I don't just play in the bourbon realm, where there's some people that stay in their bourbon lane, and that's fine. But like, and they're very tried and true. So it's like it's hard to convince them to get off of Kentucky or get
Hmm.
out of Tennessee,
Yep.
because they think that's the birthplace. Which, okay, maybe it is, maybe it's not. People were moonshining a long time before that, so
Yeah.
it's just one of those things. So another question that I feel kind of goes into this. We talked about some struggles that you guys are having. What is the first thing you do when you get to the distillery each morning? Like I know you turn the lights on, obviously. If it's dark, turn the lights on. But
That's a good question. I've not been asked that one yet. Ultimately, it's evolved and changed quite a bit as we've gone. And so, when it was couple, 4 or 5 years ago, it was always I'd drop all my stuff and I'd immediately go into the still house. I'd, taste what's coming off the still. I'd go dip my finger in the mash and the, each fermenter and smell that and go through kind of the logs and make sure everything's running the way we would like it to be. And so it was, kind of a lot of the day-to-day production in the still house and focus in on that. I still will do that, but that's not as much the first thing because, our team has, I mentioned that a lot because we have a good group of people with the knowledge and the skill of running the equipment in the distillery. And so I'm not actually in there, doing that day to day. And I trust them and I know that they're going to continue on. And more than anything, I trust that if there's ever any issues, they're going to come find me and we talk about it. And so, I'll talk to, Matt Rubhausen, who kind of is our supervisor in there. I'll talk to him and check to make sure everything's running well first thing in the morning. But beyond that, it's a lot of, at this point, kind of, I'll be sampling bourbon, first thing in the morning. That's people would probably, I don't know. Some would say I have a problem. Some would say they want my job. I don't know. It's you never know.
For sure.
But it's truly, again, I mentioned as we're learning through learning about everything, we have all that, the rick house we have to explore. We have to get barrels selected for our barrel picks. We have to kind of plan out the next release. So truthfully, now my time is spent more kind of in the lab, doing that type of project blending and stuff like that. And so preparing a little bit more in that realm, is more of my daily task now.
Awesome. So you've talked about your crew multiple times, and it takes a village to run a distillery, obviously. So let's talk about your crew for a second, because I think they're really underrated. All of the apprentice distillers and all of the people back there sweeping the floor and the bottling people, and you might not know this number off the top of your head, about how many people are employed under the umbrella.
So that's a tricky question. So in our distillery, proper, where we're actually making the bourbon, racking the barrels, and pulling the barrels, all of that. Our crew is, we just have 5 people. So we're fairly lean in that realm. 5 day-to-day kind of operations in that side. We, again, have maintenance facility or maintenance people who come help us as well, none dedicated to us necessarily, because we are a property. We have a bottling line, again, that had kind of built over time. And so ultimately, the bottling side as well, that's beyond just bourbon. That's all of our other brands. And so on site, we're probably about 110 people or so total.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, so it's, again, kind of different realms. You have your accounting team, you have your HR to bottling to cleaning and maintenance. And so we have a whole gambit of people, but again, we have that history in other brands as well. But the bourbon side is pretty small crew overall.
And are y'all running 24 hours or?
We're not. So bourbon, we're just one shift a day. And so we have extra capacity on the column. At that point, you just got to start thinking about rick houses. And so ours, we have two traditional style. They're smaller when you think about Kentucky, right? So down there, you see these massive houses that have 50,000 barrels in them. Ours are the same height, but they hold, right around 12,000 in one and 10,000 in the other. And so smaller overall, we get a little bit more fluctuation because there's less thermal mass in that building. And so you kind of, it warms up a bit earlier in the spring and cools off a bit later in the fall, or during the winter. But we get a little bit more of that swing. and variation. But yeah, so we have that capacity. If we wanted to expand into, a second or third shift, we would have to look at other options or decrease the age, and that's not going to happen.
Right.
Thankfully, once we released our the board kind of was okay with the statement. We're not going to release anything younger than 6 years anymore. That's just the fact. 6 years is the youngest, and then we don't intend to release anything below 100 proof, below that bottled and bond level. And so so at that point, we would need more rick houses. So
right. And so if you don't mind talking a little bit, because this is the nerdy part, if you want to get into that, a little bit about your setup. And you say you go and check the ferments and stuff. Are you doing oak ferment, open vatted, or how are you doing that?
Yeah, so they're stainless steel. When we purchased, we bought from Vendome, and so we have it begins with a 2-cooker system. Not a lot of places do that. Most have kind of that 1 cooker where you'll heat up the corn or your primary grain, and then you'll add in your secondary grain as it cools off, and your malted barley. And we, again, going back to the history, we always did a 2-cooker system. Large grain has the corn. Small cooker has our secondary grain, wheat or rye. And so we're really focused in each of those. We'll start with limestone spring water. We do a sour mash process, so we'll add in the back set. And then from there, we mash in our grain and cook those vessels respective to their the temperatures that we would do that. And so it's really about maximizing the flavor we can get from each individual grain. From there, we'll cool down our large cooker and get them to the point where large and small are the same, combine them and cool them down at once. And so we really handle them as much as we possibly can as 2 individuals, just to extract as much. It's not just sugar in the cook process. It's the amino acids from the grains are the primary driver for congener development from your yeast. And so we want to really truly get as much as we possibly can. And so by doing the 2-cooker system, whether it is or is not different, it's scientifically hard to prove. But it is truly, for us, we know that when you're cooking things at home, you oftentimes cook things separately to maximize the flavor. And there is the thought and the science behind that. We want to maximize the amount of amino acids we can extract from the small grain. And so that's the beginning. So you said you wanted nerdy, so we got nerdy on that.
It's all good.
From there, we will then cool down to go over to our fermenters, and then we'll pitch in the fermenters. We could not revive. We did not have any old yeast strains from our history. And so we found one that produced kind of a similar congener profile overall as what we used to do, standard whiskey style yeast. And so with that, it's a fairly quick and hot fermentation cycle. And so 3 days, 3 to 5 days, we've gone up to 5 days for some various things, but it's running kind of a little bit hotter. It's in that 90-degree range, and so we'll allow it to go quick. And so it's truly that first couple days getting all the alcohol, but then that last day is really, again, that congener development, the depth of flavor that you would get with the distillate. And so again, what we are doing there, well, then it ties into our distillation. We're going off a column still, 18-inch column from Vendome. We had one here on site. It was actually a 36-inch, I believe, still. That was what we used prior to shutting down. And that still, we actually bought used prior. But yeah, it had a history to it. And so when we made bourbon in the 80s, they would do just for a couple month period. Right. So like October to March, that's when they'd make all their bourbon for the year and then shut down. So we're year round. So 18-inch column still can get by with that smaller. 120 proof off the column, 130 proof off of our doubler. And so we use the column doubler style. And we're leaving it at kind of, or distilling off that lower proof a little bit, just because, ultimately our style, again, that was historic for us, that was known, but we're also aging it in those new charred oak barrels in the Missouri climate for 6 years. And so
Right.
you want that full depth of flavor as your distillate to build and change over time. And so that was a very full bodied kind of, trying to get some of those fatty acid ethyl esters coming through with distillate. So from there, going into a char 3 barrel at 118 barrel entry proof, and then up to the rick houses. So that's kind of the main nerdiness of the production style. I don't know. Any questions? Did I miss anything that I
No. You did amazing. You did really well. The fact that you're coming off at 130, which is a lot lower than everybody else is doing, that to me is really cool, because for one, you don't have to add as much water, which I mean, people can shoot me over this, but I feel like when you're at 160 and then you have to proof it down to 125, you're adding all that extra water. Whereas the other water was in the boiler with it, had more time to homogenize. That's just me. Anyway, that's me getting, alchemical on it. But I feel like it does make a difference. And also, a lot of people don't understand this. I studied a little bit about Missouri moonshiners back in the day. We're talking pre-Prohibition, and they would cook their grains separately. Their corn would be over here, and their other pot. So it's like, you guys are trying to do it the old school way, that was pre-taxed. But it's super cool that you can still get that flavor in. And of course, they didn't barrel age anything, but like, you can still get that flavor come through, and you can taste it in the spirit, I feel. And it might just be that you're blowing smoke at me this whole time and you're lying about everything. I don't know, but okay, so let me see where I'm at. Okay, this is a good one, and this is for you personally, not brand. This is for you personally, because I like to get personal with the person I'm talking to, not that personal. Calm down. What's your guilty pleasure drink that's not whiskey?
Oh, man, that is a good question. So this is, you say it's me, but I never can fully separate from brands. So I'm in general always drinking one of our brands of spirits in general. So if I'm gonna go with a gin and tonic, it's gonna be Broker's Gin is our gin, and so I do enjoy that. It's not bourbon, but enjoy that. But then also, if so we partner, we sell our barrels to Boulevard Brewing Company in Kansas City, and so I enjoy any of their beers. I tend to go towards that, and if need be, they have a seltzer that my wife loves, and I've had one or two on a hot summer day, and it's not actually terrible, and so it's one of those things that I stick with brands that are close or that I know people of, or things like that. And so it's more about the appreciation of the, who's making it and how are they making it type of thing anyway. But yeah, it's not just bourbon that I drink, but people, I guess, always assume or think that I get into wine. I enjoy it. It's fine. But I don't personally know many winemakers. I don't like it's, I think that's more of it than anything with me. I like knowing, no matter what, even if I don't care for a specific spirit, if I know the person that made it and I, respect what they're doing, I'll enjoy a drink with it, just because it's kind of that connection a little bit more so.
Right. Okay, so that leads me to, I didn't think I was going to be full of questions, but I am now. So you've talked about making traditional bourbons. But then you start talking about wine, and everybody, the new craze right now is doing all these finishings. Have y'all done, or have you thought about doing any sort of bourbon finishings as well?
Yeah, so that's a good area. Good question on that. We have not done anything too extreme. So we a couple years back, when we first released, we were doing all these kind of road shows. We didn't, or not road shows, industry nights. We'd invite people up from Kansas City, come to our distillery, try the bourbon before it was officially released, and we were doing all of this. And Patrick Fee, our VP of Sales and Marketing, and we were done with. I don't know. It was a grueling schedule, but we were done
Yeah.
with our third week straight of doing this, and we were sitting on our patio of our event space, having a bourbon and talking about that same topic. What's going on in the world, what other things are popular, what other things are happening, and it's finishing, and how do you do this? And we talked about double oaking, we talked about toasted barrel, and things along that line. And so for us, we both kind of, as we were talking, it's like we want a controlled temperature, we want a climate that is conducive to that. And so we looked, and we have an ancient cave on site, our oldest building, 1837. And so we decided it was where the tours started. There was a cheesy video, right? You always have to have that cheesy video.
Absolutely.
You sat in church pews in the cave and watched the cheesy video. That was the beginning of the tour. And so we decided, there's a better use for that cave, and we bonded it, put in ricks in there to have that cool temperature. Now, we have not ventured out on anything too extreme yet. So we have cave collection on site that we've sold just at our distillery. And that's where we play around with secondary finishes. But everything that we've done is still technically bourbon. It's still all new charred oak finishing. And so it's more in the line of double oaking and toasted barrel finishes is what we've done. And so when we did that, we dumped 20 barrels from the first floor of Brickhouse C of our traditional original mash bill. And we filled then 14 new barrels from that, 13 different kinds of barrels. And so it was, again, one was like a chinkapin oak rather than traditional. One was, we had a couple French oaks. We've had different toast profiles. It was truly about seeing all beginning same liquid, what can we do with that, and play around with the different styles of oak and toast. And so it's been fun to release as we've gone the last year. We just released it last October and kind of drop them every now and then. We're repeating that with our soft red wheat mash bill as well. But it's again, all very traditional, new charred oak or, variations of that. And so, we've had a lot of requests for a lot of different things, but again, we are very cautious and very slow and methodical in everything that we do. And so that realm, anything wine or honey or whatever, you name it, very, very slow in exploring that realm. So,
and again, this is going back to you guys' tradition, your heritage from years past. And you don't want to stray too far off the side, because then it truly wouldn't be you. So I enjoy a good toasted barrel. I enjoy a good French oak. Have you done a Gariana or Oregon oak?
We have not. No, that's
that's
one that I know. I did think about that as well. That was, as far as I know, Independent Stave didn't have any of those. So they we kind of went and just talked with them and said, hey, let's get a wide variety, whatever you have. Let's just go with that. And then, that may be the next round is exploring stuff like that as well.
Because I know Westland does, and I mean, they're a single malt distillery, but they do a Gariana finished or a Gariana matured. And man, it is so much different from their original. Just I think it's, it gets down to cellular structure and all that, the hemocellulose and all that. I'm not going to get that nerdy on it, I promise. But it's so cool to see different types of oak that are presenting this profile. It's super cool. And you guys are still, even though you're experimenting a little bit, and it's distillery only and all that stuff, you're experimenting a little bit, but you're still staying true to what's in the bottle.
Yeah.
which that to me is super cool. Okay, so have there been any memorable pranks or funny moments at the distillery?
Oh man.
I'm throwing them out there, bro. I mean, I got a one
Yeah.
shot. Go.
Yeah. So I don't know about pranks necessarily. And we the typical, I guess. So whiteboards, chalkboards. I got chalkboard behind me, but the typical banter with I'm a K-State, Kansas State guy,
Mhm.
and several of our guys are KU people, and so unfortunately, they're wrong in their choice, but they tend to want to the whole anytime stuff comes up. So we have that, and uh, that's more of it, and then I think that was more a lot of sports banter for us in the still house, and then as we've gone to actual sales and I've approached a different group of people, it's we do road trips, and we do always get dumpster coffee and
Okay.
beef jerky. We got one of our guys, Joe. He's our sales guy, and he's very thorough, and he's we go to an event, and he'll want to set up for 5 hours for an event that we could set up for in an hour, and so we don't often get to eat, and so we always get beef jerky everywhere. That tends to be our meal for the day.
Okay.
Whenever we're around him, and so there's a couple of us anytime we travel, we always just make sure we get dumpster coffee and beef jerky. Honestly, if the coffee's been made like 8 hours before we get it, doesn't matter. It's whatever.
Yeah,
it
fine.
is. It's just coffee. We need caffeine. We got to go. So
That's so funny. That's so funny. Because I mean, you got to think about it. Like now that you guys are distributing, I mean, you're pretty much all over the U.S., correct?
yeah, I don't know the state count or where we're at this point, but yeah,
It's a lot.
it's most states. Some
Right.
have weird laws and control
Right.
states and whatnot. I don't know how much we send there, but yeah, we're mostly throughout the U.S.
Right. And so you have to have brand reps as well. Is that correct? Like you have to have these people that are going to Total Wine and Specs and all of these places and Goody Goody and like, because if you can't get the whiskey to people's lips, they're not going to know about it. You can do a million podcasts. I mean, you were just on Bourbon Pursuit, so it might do something, but but at the same time, I mean, you got to get the liquid to lips, and that to me is crazy because, like you say, you have all the people in the production side, but then once you get it out into the field, you just gotta. What are you? A hope and a prayer? Is that all we're looking at there?
I mean, that's essentially, I think, pretty much where you get to at some point. But it's you do have to, first a couple years ago it was, hey, let's educate our distributor partners, and let's make sure they understand what this is, and let's have them try it, and let's talk about it, and let's go out and then go to we have to talk to buyers at all the off-premise stores. You want to try to get some bars and restaurants to have it on site so that people, again, investing in a $60 bottle versus trying it at a bar, we understand people often want to try before they buy, and so you want to get that, and you try to do as many. There's festivals, whiskey festivals, bourbon festivals in every state, and we can't make it to all of them because there's just too many, but try to do as many as we possibly can, because again, tell the story, and you talk about the history, and you talk about how we're making it, and it's very traditional overall, but people, you kind of mentioned it earlier, there still is always the people that are, I only drink Kentucky, I only drink the traditional bourbon, I only drink this or that, and so you no matter what, that barrier is there, and so you always have to keep trying to get people to taste it and trying to go in the settings where that's advantageous. So that's been a lot of the last couple years, has been out on the road, out at different events or talking to people, and it just kind of that type of kind of on the street thing. That's what we have to do. That's we're not these massive. We're a big company. We're not tiny. We're not a startup, but
Right.
we're not one of these massive multinational conglomerate type of companies, and so we
Right.
have to be out there, and we have to be on the street talking about our product and trying people on the product as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you this, for all the bourbon enthusiasts, if you haven't tried Ben Holladay or Holladay Distilling at all, get out there and try them. I've been a fan of you guys for a number of years now. I think I tried. Oh Lord, I mean, it was right when I saw it, and of course I'm in Texas, so it's a little
Yep.
my market's a little bit different.
Yep.
But I got to try just the regular bottle of Bond, and it was amazing. Picked up a bottle. I think it's right there behind my head.
Oh, nice. Yep.
I keep my ghost shelf, where all the
That's
ones
awesome.
I've already killed. But it gives you something to go back to, right? I know where I was
Yep.
at that time, but to me, it's a different flavor than Kentucky bourbon, but it still has all of the cherry and all of the things. And then after we get off, I'm actually going to do a tasting video of it. So just to let you know,
Okay, nice.
it'll be all good things. So don't
Yeah,
hesitate there. So if you want, and I mean, I don't know how much more time you have, but if you want, you've talked about having multiple other brands on the property. Do you want to talk about those at all, or?
Yeah. So we've had throughout our history, a ton of different brands, and it's kind of fun always looking at different labels that we had historically. Over the last 30 years, we built out a portfolio of products, and really since our current president Mick took over in 2008, it has been focused in more on premiums or products with a story or with something that has substance behind it, or so that's when we first released. We have 360 vodka is kind of a vodka we have. We have Tequila Rose. It's a tequila cream based liqueur.
You guys do Tequila Rose?
We do Tequila Rose. Yep.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
It's insane. So that is I thought everyone was making it up, but that's actually the number one shot product in the UK. It's ahead of Fireball, and so it's like one of those things. It's like that's I did not know that, but yeah. So that one is our larger kind of product. But so yeah, we have Tequila Rose, we have Broker's Gin, phenomenal London dry gin that we bought and now distribute, and so and then the other big one for us, the big push, is Five Farms Irish Cream, and that one is a phenomenal product. So it's the Five family farms in County Cork, Ireland. Our president kind of, and the board, they went over there, selected these farms. Ultimately, the story was, let's bring Irish cream the way it used to be made in Ireland. People there didn't drink Irish cream, current Irish cream, because it changed from how their grandparents made it, right? And so our Mick was like, hey, what can we do an Irish cream from one cow, one farm? Like, what can we do with that? And because that's what it would have been. It would have been one farm. And we have partners over there, and they're like, hey, we can't do one farm, but we can do 5. That's the minimum. And so we partnered with these 5 family farms, and you get the cream and the Irish whiskey, and within 48 hours, it's made into into that Five Farms Irish cream. And so it's a very premium, very luxurious product. It's the highest rated Irish cream in history. It's a phenomenal product as well. I mentioned earlier Ascot Awards, that one best liqueur. It's just one of those products that just is, anyone who tries it, it's just such this, so rich and just, again, luxurious overall. It just people love it, and that's kind of the push as well for us, in addition to bourbon. And so that it's one of those things where we are trying to get people over to Ireland to see the farms and to experience it as well, because it's just one of those products that, again, there's depth to it rather than just a brand that is a boardroom brand. So bourbon with the transparency we have going on with it, and then the Five Farms as well. So yeah, we're trying to focus in on those type of products, but again, we have others beyond that, but those are kind of the core focus right now.
Right, right, absolutely, and it's so cool. And I'm guessing, and I mean, if you can't talk about that, that's fine. I'm guessing you're using a different still for your. Well, I guess you're getting the product. You're not actually distilling. Okay, okay.
So
because I'm like, if it's Irish, you can't distill it
with
on
Irish
site.
cream,
So,
exactly. Everything has to be done over in Ireland, and so we have went through the work of getting all the partnerships set up over there. But yeah, we can't make it. It'd be fun for me, and I'd love to do this. Is try to send some barrels over there for them to age it in, and
that would be super fun.
But yeah, so we're working through some of those type of things as well. But yeah, we can't make it. People often ask us if we're doing a bourbon cream ever. That's one of those products people ask about.
Right.
And we've looked at it. I'm not going to lie, but when we try Five Farms Irish cream and compare it to anything bourbon cream related, we have to be better than that. And so it's a pretty high bar. And so we just want to make sure that if we ever do a bourbon cream, it's, comparable or better than Five Farms as well.
Which sounds like it's going to be pretty difficult to do.
It's going to be tough. Yeah. I don't know enough about cream and dairy farming in order to know exactly yet. Who knows? Maybe we'll learn. But yep.
Well, Kyle, I appreciate you so much for coming on here. Do you have any last comments or anything you want to say before we get off of here?
No, I mean I appreciate you having us on. I definitely appreciate all the people that talk highly of us. Again, it's one of those things where we're just, regular people in Missouri make bourbon, and we were always hopeful that the world would enjoy it. But to get the reception that we have had, it's very much appreciated and not lost on us. And so anytime we get a chance to join someone like you, definitely very thankful for that.
And I appreciate you so much for hanging out with me. A little inside baseball. We've been working on this for a couple months, actually.
It has.
You guys have just been busy, and I get it. And I'm not trying to downgrade myself. My wife keeps telling me, lift yourself up. But I'm small potatoes compared to some of these other guys. So I appreciate you coming on here and hanging out with me. And the product that's in the glass shows with what you're trying to put across. And I cannot wait to see what you guys have in the future. I had 1,000 more questions, but I want to keep you all night. So, I appreciate you being here. I'll have all your links down below. Oh, do you want to talk about your socials real fast or anything like that?
Yeah, Holladay Distillery. I honestly don't know if I know them. Look up Holladay Distillery on all the different platforms. Honestly, holladaybourbon.com. I always start there. Because then that links to all the different socials.
Right.
Always encourage people. I guess I should mention that holladaybourbon.com. We tell the full story of the Holladay brothers and the history, and dive into all of that more. And that's fascinating in and of itself. We have Distiller's Journal. If I stay up to date with that, which I've been very far behind on that. Where we talk about how we selected the barrels, where they came from, all the extra nerdy details, Angel Share, all of those type of things.
Right.
And then, just from there, you can also find the links to all the different socials as well. So holladaybourbon.com. Just start there.
Yeah, so absolutely. That's the best place to go. I appreciate you coming on here, and thank you very much. And until next time, keep your spirits up. All right, guys, here we go. This is going to be a good one. We're going to get into Ben Holladay, Missouri Straight Bourbon Whiskey, Rickhouse Proof. Let's go. All right, guys. I'm so excited. You want to know why? Sorry, my water cup's in the camera. You want to know why I'm excited? This is going to be piggybacked. This episode will be piggybacked on the podcast with Holladay Distilling. Yeah, I know. So let's crack into this. Now, they use a twist top. No shame in that game, okay? No shame in that game. So if you guys don't know anything about Holladay and Ben Holladay, this is the original recipe that they used back in 1856. Now, the distillery had closed down, obviously. It hadn't been open since 1856. But when they reopened, they kept that legacy, and they found it closed in the 80s, right? They found one of the guys that worked at the distillery and found the actual mash bill of this bourbon. And this is that mash bill. Same corn varietal, same wheat, not wheat, same rye, and same barley. That's freaking awesome. This is a 6-year-old product at cask strength. It is on Warehouse C, and it's a blend of barrels, obviously. Floor 2, 3, 4, and 5. Mainly 3. And it comes in at 60.05% alcohol, 120.1 proof. So let's get into it. And it's 6 years old, new charred oak barrels, 53 gallon. So let's get into it. Man, cherry for days, all day cherry. A little hot on the nose. This is not the first drink of the day. A little hot on the nose. Caramel, vanilla, cherry Coke. Take it back. Ooh, a little spicy. Prickly on the back. It's really nice. Now, that was the first drink. Obviously, we're going to let it go through. Get you some water. So, Holladay Distilling is doing really cool stuff. And it takes you away from Kentucky, is what it does. But the flavors, I mean, they're spot on to me. If you like a good Kentucky bourbon, you're going to love Ben Holladay. Now, this one, like I said, is their, I don't know why I keep putting it down there. This one is their rye mash bill. You know, they do have the soft red wheat as well. But this one, it gives a little spice. It gives a little niceness to it. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they have coming up. They've been in the game for a minute. They have a pretty good sized distillery. So they're not running 24 hours a day though, but you know, they gotta go home sometime. They are DSP Missouri 5. So there's 4 other distilleries that were before them. And this was bottled in August of 2023. So this is a year-old bottle. I did open it up when we did the podcast together, and we talked about all the things. So, okay, on the nose, after the first drink, it's much the same. That cherry is really strong. It's not like it's more like barrel cherry, bourbon cherry, or whatever you call it. It's not medicinal. It's not like Luden's cough drops. It's really nice. Man, it packs a punch in a good way. Man, it's toffee, creme brulee, but then that spice sits on the top of your tongue. It's viscous. It's oily. And it lingers. You can taste it linger down the back of your throat with a nice pumpernickel bread or something like that. Super cool. So we're gonna score it. We're gonna score it. I keep forgetting that we're gonna score it. I gotta find my pen. Hold on. I gotta find my pen. All right, I found my pen. I don't know. I keep losing my pen. I don't know why. Okay, so let's, I do my scoring on 4 levels, smell, taste, finish, and would I buy again? Now, I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys, because that's all I can be, right? I am the redheaded stepchild of whiskey, so I wear that with honor. This bottle right here, I did not buy. It was a gift from the distillery. So take that into account. That's not going to give it more points or less points. It's just, it is what it is, right? I thank Holladay Distilling for giving me that bottle as well. So, but it has nothing to do with that. I'm reviewing it because it's a great whiskey. And, you know, a little self-promotion never hurt. You know what I mean? So let's get in on the nose. Oh, man, that cherry. It almost edges on like black or dark cherries. Almost a little tart. Man, on the nose, I'm going to give it an 8. Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8. I'll have it up here. You know I will. It'll probably be right on my face. No, let's go in for the taste. And this is to see what that is. Wow, it has a lot of flavor. The flavors on this, they're basic bourbon flavors, but they're not like, they're so cohesive. Everything just melds really nice together. Toffee, vanilla, caramel. Toffee and caramel are different. Okay, toffee has, anyway, doesn't matter. Or this is in the cooking show. Creme brulee, toasted marshmallow, oak, leather. Oh man, you know what? I'm gonna give that a 9. I am. It is such a good taste. All right, let's go on the finish. And I'm gonna take a drink first. Luckily for me, the finish means I have to drink it again and not dial in so much on the taste. So I get to have a little bit more whiskey. Yay for me. Now this will probably be the last whiskey I have for the day. So just first and last. Not the first. I had one a little bit earlier. Okay. Cigar, like a cigar box. When you open the cigar, it just prickles the tongue. Prickles the tongue. Rye bread, but not super funky rye. Maybe a little butter on that bread. Oily, viscous, clings to your throat. You start to get that Missouri hug, I guess. Wow. Okay, so it's a shorter finish. It's almost gone now. It leaves me with almost a numbing antiseptic taste. Not taste, but like lingering in the back. Okay, so I'm going to give that an 8. It's really good. The finish, it's short, but what's there is good. All right, so would I buy again? I would say if you're into bourbon, if you're into Kentucky bourbon or Tennessee bourbon, Tennessee whiskey, whatever you want to call it, it's still bourbon. They just charcoal mellow it, whatever. It's fine. If you're into stuff like that, I had to check to make sure my mic was still on. Would I buy this again? Now, I did not buy this to begin with, but I have bought other holiday products. So I will tell you, I would buy this again, and I'm going to give it an 8 on would I buy again. Because I think if you did a blind with this and say an Elijah Craig barrel proof, this is going to stand up. Or a Booker's, this is going to stand up. Now, you guys know I'm all about craft and I'm all about doing the off the wall thing, right? Like I'm not an allocated hunter. I have allocated. I just don't hunt the allocated, right? So yeah, there's that. So let's get our total. All right. I had to stop and actually add it up. I don't know how to add. So just don't stop it. So yeah, I gave this a 33 out of 40. Yeah, it's pretty great. It's pretty great. Go get one. Go get one right now. The Rickhouse proof is really nice. It'll sit well with an ice ball. Mix it in a cocktail. It's not super expensive. I think this one is about $70. Now I know what you're saying. It's about 70 for the Rickhouse proof. I think it's 55 for the regular, which is bottled and bond, so it's 100 proof. So you do get 20 more proof points on this one. The flavor is really nice. Everything's really great on it. So yeah, that's my review of the Ben Holladay. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please go check out the podcast, please. I thought it was excellent, and they're doing some amazing things, and they got second place in the World Whiskey Awards. So I don't know. What do y'all think? Let me know in the comments what you think of Ben Holladay and Holladay brand. I'd like to thank the sponsors of this show, Bad Motivator Barrels and Z Smith Whiskey and Mixology. Thank y'all very much. And if you need to get a hold of me, whiskeyshamancpodcast@gmail.com. And we do have a Patreon if you want to go there and you want to support monetarily. I would appreciate it. You guys be good. Thank you very much for all your support. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, do all the algorithmic things because they are needed these days. And until next time, keep your spirits up.